Shall we call it to order? What do you think? You guys good about that? Yeah, you want to do it? Hey, let's call this meeting to order and stand up and give the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call.
Chairperson Windle.
Here.
Vice Chair Spencer.
What?
Vice Chair Spencer, here. Mr. Pitchley.
Here.
Mrs. Lujan.
Here.
Here.
Potter.
All right, we move to number 3, adoption of agenda. Anybody have any comments of the agenda before we adopt it?
Mr. Chair, there is a typo on item number 5.2 staff report. I believe it indicates 5.5, but it's actually 5.2. Just at the top there where it says item 5.5, adopt a trail. It's actually 5.2, not 5.5, just on that staff report. So we'll go with 5.2, what's on the agenda. It's a typo.
Okay.
So I move to adopt with correction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. All right. Public comment. I don't see any public comment here. Do we? Any written communication?
No, sir.
All right. Then we can close out number 4. All right, 5, discussion topics. Let's go on to 5.1, June 16th, 2025, Recreation and Parks Commission meeting minutes.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes from June 16th.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. 5.2, adopted trail program review and comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Before you tonight is a proposal for our Adopt a Trail program, which was brought up by City Council and recommended by staff in regards to designing a volunteer program specific for sections along the trail. We were fortunate enough to be able to work with our Cannabis Benefit Community Fund, and they had actually approved funding to be able to support some of those supplies. You were presented with the report in advance, but I do want to highlight a couple of very, very important things that I think is exciting. Number one, not only will we be able to have supplies and specific equipment for volunteers to use, but we're also wanting to really kind of hone in and focus on organizations and groups, whether it's a church or a local business, very, very similar to Adopt a Highway, where they'll be responsible for sections of the trail. I kind of called it a little bit of a recreation name, a Trailblazers, which is kind of funny. But what came out from this was there are other individuals that want to volunteer and participate and help out on the trail. And so we're going to actually just start a list of, Lone Rangers, or what we're calling Lone Blazers. And we'll just kind of have a list and we kind of connect them with the organization. Whether it's like a Boy Scouts or another troop or someone who wants to adopt that specific section of the trail. And those lone individuals can kind of join in with them. There'll be an orientation portion with each leader for each section. We are still working out some measurements between myself and engineering because we have a very robust mapping system, so we'll be able to kind of work through some of those sections. You'll notice I made a few changes in the draft proposal that I presented to you earlier in the week. The other piece that we are very, very fortunate with, we were able to kind of work with our friends of El Dorado Trail. I believe you remember the young lady that was here last week, Miss Eileen. and Ginny, who's also the president of the, I met with them probably about an hour to kind of go through certain things, get some feedback from them. The next step after commission, after we get some feedback and kind of really dialogue and talk it through on what you guys see here, is I'd like to open it up to the community and perhaps like host a forum to do two things. Number one, to promote the program, to gain some traction, to kind of get people involved, and second, to also get some feedback from the community as well. With that said, you have my staff report and the proposal, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Any questions?
Yes. Does this include the creek as well as the trail?
I did not include the creek as part of it. It was just the trail.
Can we do the creek as well? We have 4 miles, 4.3 miles of trail. Some of it's creek, some of it's not. But if we're going to do the trail, why not do the creek? And also, the fencing that goes along the trail, you want those volunteers to cut back the brush along those fences as well?
I'm sorry, hold on one second. I was making a note. So 4.3 miles of the creek to program. I'm just taking notes. My apologies.
No, you're cool.
And then talk to me about the fencing.
So the fencing's along the trail. There's growth, green growth that's growing out. You want them to cut it back so it's flush?
Ideally,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
there are going to be specific standards that we'll work with our maintenance crew on in regards to how far the setback's going to be. Some of the equipment will include weed trimmers and loppers and certain
Yep.
things like that.
Gotcha. How about paint?
Paint is something that we definitely talked about, either A, for graffiti, or
Yep.
B, for the trail to be
Yep.
able to bring in some of those markers and freshen those up.
I agree. And the businesses along the trail, get them included, push them very hard to be included? Maybe take a portion of the trail for them? Yes?
Yeah, I'll make them an offer they can't refuse. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be nice for us to definitely start with them, maybe as part of the community outreach part.
Okay, cool.
I also do know, and just to your point, I think it'd be a great idea. I want to be also cautious of, some of the smaller businesses too, but I don't want to tax anyone, but at the same time, we definitely want as many people involved as possible.
Well, I think they have families. They can come and say, hey, spend 2 hours helping us out here. This is, we have 100 yards of trail that we're going to do.
Right.
Help us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yes, I have a few. Okay, so on the first page, Adopt a Trail program, on the background, the second paragraph, last sentence, staff initially presented the concept of this program to City Council. When was that?
Oh, gosh, what is today? August, it's about August, I'd say maybe about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, when we were talking about security along the trail.
Okay.
Approximate.
The same paragraph, it's referring the Community Cannabis Fund. Is that separate from the fund that was of the 185,000 for the irrigation?
Yes.
Separate fund, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it's separate. Okay, so separate funding. And then let me take a look here. Let me look at my notes from some of my questions. Who is doing the trail maintenance now, currently?
Staff and a small group of very passionate volunteers.
Okay. Is that on a regular schedule for maintenance? How often is it being done? Is it like a quarterly thing? What's our current action plan? Do we have that itemized, or is it just kind of like when we have time?
It's pretty much prioritized when we have time and based on the significant need. If there are trails, there's a blockage in the trail with trees. We just kind of mitigate it based on the severity of what needs to happen. Campgrounds seem to be like the primary when we see significant areas that have either fires or other pieces like that. We generally have it. We generally have it on a check weekly for like at least trash and basic debris. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay. Let me see here. I believe at the last meeting, I didn't have time to go back and check, but there was a gal at the last month's meeting who was discussing the overgrowth along the trails in Placerville, and I believe she mentioned that she also had some funding for helping clear. Do we know if there was follow-up with that particular
That was Miss,
citizen?
that was Miss Eileen.
Oh, that was
Friends
Miss
of- yeah,
Eileen.
that was
Okay.
With the Friends of the El Dorado Trail. She's
Oh, okay.
definitely involved in this. We were,
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure if that was the same gal. Okay, so that's okay. What is it, Friends of El Dorado Trail, you said?
I believe so.
Okay. Are they official organization or just
Yes.
kind of, okay, thank you. And let me check my other notes here. Okay, I think it was towards the back. Let me pull this up.
I ask a question while you're looking.
Yes.
The waivers, are they good for a year?
That is correct.
Good.
Calendar year. And yes, the name of their organization is Friends of the El Dorado Trail.
Perfect. Thank you.
And it's first come, first serve as far as which part of the half mile?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of what we want to talk a little bit around in regards to certain sections. A couple of the questions that I want to run through with you guys, if you guys are done with your questions, then I'll ask you guys, but that would be something that we would want to address. You know, which, is it first come, first serve? Is it, are we basing it based on size? Is if we break it up by quarter mile, can some of the organizations maybe perhaps only do a quarter mile, or are they taking a half mile? So those are some of the things that we kind of really would love input on.
Okay.
Tell me more, it's volunteer, so tell me more about the 250 fee.
So there are items that we would use on a regular basis that need to be replaced versus like the battery-powered weed trimmers and certain things like that, where we'll constantly kind of just have that until, you know, it expires and we need to replace it in a couple of years. But we're talking about like rubber gloves, plastic bags, graffiti wipes, those kinds of things. So we want to be able to figure out, yes, we have the seed money from the Cannabis Club, but then we also want to be able to create some buy-in because they're not just investing their time, we want to make sure that they're committed to it as well. So having that nominal fee also presents them an opportunity to invest, be committed, but then put that money back into the program. So we're replacing the trash bags, we're replacing the rubber gloves and certain things like that. It's kind of the idea behind it.
Gotcha.
We don't have to do the fee, which was another question, but
I'm just asking the question.
no, that was my concept.
I have just a logistics kind of thing that sounds silly, but so they collect all this trash in a bag, and then will there be dumpsters close by, or will they have to transport these bags?
Not a silly question at all. So depending on the size and the amount, if it is something that the group can manage and either dispose of, we can set up a centralized area where they could kind of dump it, right? If it's significant enough, I would like to establish with our team specific areas on the trail where they would be able to drop it, either leave it next to the trailer, so then our guys could come by later
see.
to be able to pick it up. If it's a large enough group, depending on the section, maybe we coordinate with the local business to be able to bring a dumpster in. Because another thing that we don't want to do is kind of load up some, I know it sounds funny, but valuable garbage. So people start digging through it and then spreading it all over again, and we just have to go back and pick it up. So
Right.
we want to be conscious of location, whether it's centralized or decentralized along the trail.
What happens if someone comes across a person who is residing on the trail or in the shrubs around the trail, and mistakenly one of our volunteers thinks some of the debris is garbage, and they pick it up? Have we thought through a scenario that might come up like that?
So depending, we are going to have an orientation. Let's start there. So every organization and their lead, who is the lead of that particular group, and if they're an individual, we'd want to encourage them to be a part of that orientation. During that orientation, not only we would be talking about logistics around liability and waivers.
Okay, so you are going to address
We're also
that.
going to talk about boundaries, private property versus public property.
Right.
And in our packet, if you notice, there's also, and it's a huge plug for our 311 and for the PD. PD has an amazing app, and they've got a great mechanism for users to be able to log in. At certain points, you can actually ping where locations are. So if there are campsites or there are individuals there, there's if you see it to be a personal item, those are kind of the things we're going to work through in the training piece.
Okay.
But the biggest part is knowing who to call and knowing when to call, and we'll
Right.
have that in the orientation, and it's also in the packet there as well.
So they're going to be able to download all this information onto their phones, so it's easily accessible to them while they're working,
Ideally, yes.
ideally.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
We know how perfect plans are never perfect, but that would be the hope.
I found where it was. So on the trail adoption process for the orientation and training, it was stated that these training courses will be provided monthly and recorded online for review. How much time do you anticipate the orientation and training to take per group, for example?
It kind of depends on the type of work that each group is interested in. If it's a little bit more of an extensive work, it's probably could be about an hour. If it's basic orientation, you're looking anywhere from about 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
And a lot of that is just basic safety stuff in regards to making sure you have the proper PPE, making sure you're not alone, making sure you're aware of your surroundings, those kinds of things. Some of the stuff that Mrs. Spencer alluded to as well. Two specific things that we do want to be mindful of when we go through that training. As long as there is interest and they want to learn more, the training could last as much as they want to learn. Let's put it that way.
Okay. That's it for my current questions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I do. Depending upon how we market this to the community, you may need 2 meetings for organization. You may want to break it out into 4. So the way I'm looking at it, if you got 4 miles, you can divide it by a quarter mile. You got 16 groups that can be doing a quarter mile, right? So you got 1 group each. Is there going to be a head person that comes back to the recreation center, or are they going to put everything online, say this has been completed, and mark it off that way, that they've done their share, that they've done their quarter mile? What are your thoughts about finishing? Because it says here to report back, but how?
I haven't really thought through all of that in detail.
Okay.
The one particular piece I know that is important that we put in there was establishing one specific lead person and formalizing a form to be able to report. One piece of that is the consistency of how often that group is going to be able to meet. So we'll want to be able to get their schedules. And I think it's going to be important for staff to also be present on some of their work days. So not necessarily is it their responsibility to always come to us. I actually think throughout the year, it's also our responsibility to be present so we kind of also know what's going on.
Perhaps photographs before and after?
That would be great. I think that would be awesome to help market too.
I agree so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I live on a street where I probably have a few neighbors that would be interested in forming a group.
Awesome.
But they might balk at a $250 fee. So I appreciate that you said you could be flexible on that. Perhaps there might be an in lieu donation of trees or flowers or something like that. I don't really know, or tools. But just as a way to offset that, so that maybe they donate just the type of bags that you want, or they bring their own, whatever it might be, so it wouldn't discourage the volunteerism that you're trying to get here. The other option would be if there's a business out there that wants to sponsor but doesn't necessarily want to do the work, that maybe they could be paired up with a volunteer group. Does the city have a recycling policy?
I don't recall off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Because part of this, it calls for collect and properly dispose of trash, recyclables, and debris. And, well, I would think properly disposing of recyclables different than putting them in the trash. And we don't have, what do they call it, single source bins.
Nice.
So, perhaps clarify if recycles are separated, that, who gets those? Do they go back to the city for you to put back into the program, or do the volunteers just take care of them? however they see fit.
That's a good idea.
The creek is currently cleaned by either Growlersburg or California Conservation Corps.
Typically, the clearing of it is done by Growlersburg. Not
Okay.
necessarily like the clean, like they don't get into the creek and pull stuff
Okay.
out of it. That's mostly, as far as I know, has been mostly done by like volunteers and
Okay,
stuff.
so that's something that the city would be okay with as long as they've filled out the form, the waiver form, they know the risks. You've had a discussion about, safety, what to approach, what not to approach, that type of stuff. You'd be okay with people getting down in the water?
We've in my last year here, we've actually had a few groups being able to, they've come out and volunteer and they fill out waivers and indemnities.
Okay.
And then they've kind of set the garbage to the side and our guys have kind of come through. I'll be very frank with you, the creek was not included in this conversation around the trail.
Sure.
And it might even be a good idea to parallel it, adopt a creek and adopt a trail and have,
I thought Michael made a good point there. The other thing is the identification of the volunteers when they're out doing cleaning.
correct.
Have you thought about either neon vests, or everybody would get a certain shirt that they are expected to wear on the day of the cleaning, or some way that they would be known to be doing, that they're out there doing the work and not just, on their own, which I guess if people want to do that, that's fine. But, as officially part of the program, just a way to identify them. And then,
Each group can have a name and a shirt.
I like it.
the last thing would be, in the future, and maybe you've already given this thought, but just didn't do it yet, could you provide a map that would show us, highlight each individual section, each half-mile section you're referring to? That would be, I think that would be really helpful for groups, for me, to know what section to adopt, or if that's just randomly assigned.
No, that's what I had mentioned earlier. Sorry if I wasn't clear. So, two things that I'm doing, and this sounds very just candid, but I'm working with the PD. I'm going to borrow their ATV. I'm working with Wes in engineering. I'm going to mark it out myself. He's going to work with me with our GIS system, and we're going to try to break out the most appropriate sizing and sections. I think one came up was like half a mile, but maybe it's too large, so we might do it a quarter mile. But I'm working on those mapping and those sections, so hopefully we can have a nice, I know the Friends of the Trail have a very nice map up as well, but something very similar to that start and finish certain sections.
Okay, I didn't catch that, so thank you for covering that.
Anyone else?
Yeah. In the equipment summary, you have a trailer. A trailer, the equipment summary, is that for the Placerville City is going to provide that, or are you asking the group to provide that?
No, we will provide that. So everything on that equipment summary is going to come in a nice, pretty trailer wrap that says
One.
one. And then we'll pull it up, depending on which work days. The idea is an organization says, hey, we want to go August 1st. We want to work on our section. So
Schedule it out.
the day before, we'll pull it out there, or the morning of, we'll set it up. We'll have it all set. There'll be a clipboard, which is what we'll go through with like the training and stuff
Coffee.
like that. And then
Perfect.
meet you guys out there, or the organization out there.
Yep.
Each one of the tools that are mentioned, do you have an idea how many you're going to provide of each tool? I mean, you can't just have one lopper and one rake and,
I have it broken down in the capital outlay piece, but I may not have included it in there. Anywhere for the larger equipment that's a little more expensive, anywhere from about half a dozen to a dozen of them, and around like the garbage pickers, probably anywhere from about 30 to 40.
okay, where did you have that?
It was part of that capital outlay.
Oh,
I modified it I took out some of the city details, like the accounting numbers and stuff like that, so I could have by inadvertently deleted some of that, but the larger stuff like the trail and like the edge trimmer, it says 625, it's not 625 for just one trimmer. It's probably like $120, and so I.
okay, so you didn't really break it down. Okay, I see what you did. Okay. Yeah, it would be very important to know how many items are available so that, let's say there are two groups that want to work at the same time in different sections. You'll need to be able to have enough to provide for multiple groups, perhaps, working on the same trail in their specific location. Right?
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
No, absolutely. If I could get more out there, yes, yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Does the city own all these tools already?
Nope.
So maybe like,
Brand-new pilot program. We just-
so a hardware store or a hardware retailer could probably sponsor it by donating and then having signage that says that too, right?
Absolutely.
That could be fun.
So we're looking at a $25,000 nut for this program, right? And then volunteers.
Just for the equipment, and then,
Just for equipment. That doesn't include staff cost, right?
it does not include staff costs.
All right, and so we're adding more dollars to the debt, correct?
I would say this, it would be advantageous of us to get as many volunteers as possible based on even Commissioner Lujan's question earlier around what our schedule is right now. Anything moving forward to help our guys out in the field is ideal. If we come across the fact that we need 2 trailers, that would be an amazing problem to have, because then that means we have a lot of volunteers. So as a grassroots kind of startup program, you know, let's get a trailer out there, let's see how things are going, see how things progress. It's actually a benefit to our crew that's out there right now, because that's 4.3 miles that, you know, 4 people have to check occasionally in regards to the parks and the creek and all those other pieces. So this is kind of like an added bonus to help support some of that work. Little bit of heavy lift, sure, on the back end for myself and for some of our admin staff, but long-term, man, if we get 20 people out there regularly once a month, that'd be huge.
So like, my question for you would be for you, Dennis, and for our chair. So my first conversation on this was just the questions, and then I know you mentioned you had some questions for us in order to initiate conversation and opinions. So before I give my opinions, I wanted to see what you or more specifically the chair, how they wanted to handle the opinion piece, or if we wanted to check with the public opinion before we give our detailed feedback. So
Right, did you,
what your preference is?
before we get on to it, you had a quick one?
Yeah, just regarding the staff, you said a heavy lift for you, and you've got 3 or 4 park guys?
As of August 1st, we'll have 4 park guys.
4 park guys. How much work would you expect that this would be of them if the volunteers are doing everything they should?
I'd say, based on what I've seen so far in some of our community work days, probably an hour on the front end and an hour on the back end
Of each day they're out
of
there?
each day that there would be out there. So we would adjust schedule
So it's
accordingly.
delivering the tools or that type of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, collecting the garbage at the end?
Collecting the garbage. and-
Okay, all right. But if the groups could handle that on their own, that's one less thing to worry about.
That'd be significant, that'd be fantastic.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
I will be a little persnickety around the brand-new equipment.
Sure.
But eventually, yes.
I would think transporting that trailer would
Well-
probably be in the safety of the staff with the license and insurance.
Yes,
think
I wouldn't want to
transporting-
transfer the trailer, but I wouldn't mind throwing garbage in the back of my truck.
Correct.
Or, you know, if I'm using my own tools, I could bring them over and wouldn't need staff to come out for that.
Yeah.
The other thing is Tuesday, August 5th is National Night Out, so that might be a good opportunity to get the word out to the neighborhood groups about this program. Is the department going to be represented out there at National Night Out?
We will, and thanks to Miss Monique Mo, if you're watching online, she actually was able to work with one of our distributors to get us a department 10 by 10 Easy Up with our name on it and the logo and tablecloth. So we will be at Orchard. They'll probably rotate some of the department heads, but we'll definitely have a table and some presence at Orchard Hill because we want to get some feedback around that project that we're working on as well. I'm also inviting the commissioners, if you guys are available and would like to participate for for an hour or half an hour to help us staff that table, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you, thank you.
Sorry, Larissa, I was actually gonna, the question that you had brought up right before that was the question I had too for Dennis was, you had mentioned earlier that you, after we get done here with our questions, that you then wanted to engage in more questions, right, with regards to or I didn't know if that was for the public when we have the,
That was just basic questions that I had included in my staff report. To make
Okay.
sure that I had got all of the answers that had kind of come up. But if you want to take public comment, we could do that too.
yeah.
Jenny's here. If she wanted to share a little bit about it, we were able to meet with her. So
Oh, perfect.
If you want to do that, that'd be great.
Yeah. I just like the questions like the should we keep the 250 sponsorship? Is that for the public meeting or for us to talk?
For everybody.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
We can get their
You guys,
feedback.
I think we should take public comment first. Sure. Yeah. Public comment, please. Come on up. We have 3 minutes for you.
Okay, hi, I'm Jenny McCormick. I'm president of Friends of the El Dorado Trail. And Dennis and I have been working together on sort of the beginnings of this project. I will say that I think it's a good idea to go to half-mile distances. There are some areas of the trail that are pretty heavily have some bad weeds, let me put it that way, that we might need some help initially to get those under control, I think. But there are other sections of the trail that would be, a half a mile would be a breeze to clean up. So I think a half mile is probably about the right distance. There might be groups that want to take on more, I don't know. So we don't have any groups established yet for that. The other thing I think that we probably need to think about would be when we have the tool trailer out there, and I know we had talked about having some initial, like, here's how you run this, because we don't want people necessarily like chainsawing anything if they haven't had some training, or, you know, there's always the possibility that people can get hurt. You know, we're going to stay in close contact with Dennis and help the best we can. I don't know if we will be sponsoring a section of the trail, since we do the whole trail from county line to county line, or from Camino, at least now, to the county line. But
Safe
we'll
to say this is about 10% of what you guys have. You have
yes,
about 40 miles
exactly,
total,
right.
Wow.
So, but we'll definitely be working in conjunction with Dennis very closely and helping him. Remind me, Dennis, I'll get in touch with the folks down in Folsom.
Yes, ma'am.
So, anyway, thanks for having this hearing, and I hope we can get something established here in the city to take care of the city portion, because the city portion of the trail actually gets a lot of use. So I think we need to really love it, because it's a great recreational resource for the city and for people visiting the city. So, thank you.
Would you come to the town hall meeting if we had one too? And
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
As
cool.
long as I know about it and can put it on my schedule, of course, I'll be there.
When we have a cleanup, she's always the first one in line.
Oh, okay. Nice. Well, thank you. Any other public presentations or comments? All right, we'll bring it back to the commission.
So just to recap, thank you, Chair.
Thank
So should there be an annual sponsorship fee? I really like the idea of in lieu, if organizations can do the garbage bags too. The one part of it, and I kind of revised it a little bit, is, yeah, we want to be able to have like rubber gloves and stuff like that. But I'm also encouraging long-term volunteers to have your own gloves, because it's nothing like having your own work gloves, you know? I know that sounds cheesy, but when you're out there, you want to have your own gloves, definitely. If we did end up doing the fee, it's $250 too high. And then how long should the commitment be? Or is it weird for us to say, hey, in a year, you're going to have to just recommit? Or is it to the point where we're just kind of like, hey, let's just go for 6 months or a couple years? Do you foresee any downsides other than typos? That was a little bit of a joke. And would the commission also like to be volunteers as well, perhaps? Maybe not a section, but, you know, pickup truck, garbage, kind of rotate in and stuff like that. Those are pretty much the kind of questions that I had open-ended that I would also probably,
So I don't mind just answering for my opinion, just going down the list that is provided in your staff report. Should the city charge an annual sponsorship fee to the local organization? My personal opinion is no on that. I think that it's a lot to ask from somebody that's already dedicating 4 hours, 6 hours of their time. When I did the Rise and Shine event, I was actually working on the math on that. I think the other day it was, I think, what is minimum wage here in California? $16.25 is it now? I think the average person volunteered about 3 hours. I think it was a 4-hour window, but there was about 3 hours. And just at the one park alone that I was at Lions Park, I want to say there was at least, I showed up with 4 people. It was a pretty good group. I want to say there was at least 20 people. So if I times that by 20, the 3 hours of their time, that was, let's see here, do my math on that for the hours and wages, $975 in savings. So, oops, I think I did the math a little bit wrong on that. But point being is, it's a huge savings when we have volunteers even showing up for a couple of hours. So I think the manpower, like you said, if we can get one group of people to show up at once a month, 20 people, 4 hours of their time, 3 hours of their time, whatever that is, times how many people, that's actually a huge savings on labor. So my personal opinion is no on the fee. On some of that too, I think there were some inconsistencies in the document. Like at one point we're talking about people providing their own trash bags, but then later in the actual list we're talking about the city would provide the trash bags. I think when it comes to basic necessities, I think that my vote on that would be having the city provide those things. Somebody having their own personal gloves makes sense, but at least making sure we have the disposable ones for sanitary reasons to have available in case people do forget. When I was at the park at Lions Park, some people had gloves, some people didn't. I actually had to borrow mine from Cleve, Mr. Morris, which I was grateful that he had an extra pair. And it was really cold, so we had a lot of kids out there, and we had the little disposable gloves, but maybe just sending reminders, hey, please, we recommend you please bring XYZ items. But things like trash bags, I think it makes sense for the city to provide. So my vote's no on the fee. I think I gave my reasons, just going down your questions. How long should the commitment be? There's a lot about this program that I think is a good idea, especially the trailer. I think it's a lot to ask people to commit to a very dedicated time frame. Like, I need this organization to commit to 6 months or 12 months. I think I'm just grateful if people show up at all. I really like the idea of the Rise and Shine and how it's done yearly. I think if we actually planned more out events like that and said, hey, on X date and X time, we're going to clean up this part of the trail, this mile or half mile, whatever's manageable. And if we scheduled more of those kinds of days and even advertised a couple months in advance, maybe putting signs along the trail saying, on this date and time, we're going to clean up from here to here. Please arrive on this day and time. Having the trailer ready, having the paperwork ready for people to sign up for, I think that we might have a little bit more realistic hope for the volunteers. That'd be kind of my thought on that. Do I foresee any downsides? I think having that 6-month or 12-month commitment I think that could be challenging for some organizations, whereas if we can maybe focus on specific dates and times and seek sponsors for those specific dates and times, I could see that being hopefully a little bit more successful. Would the commission like to be involved from a volunteer perspective? I absolutely would be. And I'm curious to see how this plan develops over time. One of the things that was noted in this document, which is why I asked when this was presented to the City Council, on the first page on the background, staff initially presented the concept of this program to the City Council and was directed to vet the content with both the Commission and community prior to implementation. So I don't know if somehow that maybe jumped the gun I don't recall any specific events where this concept or idea, since I've been on the commission, has been presented to the public. So I would be a little more keen to see what the public's feedback was in advance of such a detailed proposal. So that wraps up my thoughts and answering the specific questions that were noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say?
Just where you have a bullet point here for do you foresee any downsides, I actually thought of challenges, and one would just be communication with the lead for each group is going to be a challenge, because the relationship that you'll need to have with them has to be such that they understand that they're going to have to motivate their group, but wouldn't expect that you would be talking to everybody in the group, although you may have a platform to do that. But I think regular communication, keeping them pumped up, keeping up the, there's the expectation, but we're grateful for your volunteering, I think is going to be a real challenge. And I only say that because I've done this type of thing before in another city, and it's like you said, it's a heavy lift. It's just time that you have to spend, and so you'll have to figure that part out. The other thing would just be emphasizing not only that what good they're doing for the community, but the experience that they can have volunteering with others, and the relationships that can be built there. And so it's a positive experience. And the reason I emphasize that is because you want them to come back. You want people that will want to come and help again. If they have a bad experience once, they're not going to come back. So anything you can do, especially with the lead with each group, maybe a little additional time spent with them just talking about, make it a positive experience. If it's hot, it's okay to cut out early because you don't want people to feel like they're out there part of a chain gang. Anything you can do to help keep them coming back, I think will help for the longevity of this program.
I agree with everything that Andre said. Having worked with volunteers before, I think it's essential that we do our part in making sure that they know how, I want to say vital, but how important their work is that they're doing, which means that continuous feedback and continuous checking in with the lead person, whoever that might be for each organization or each group, and making sure that we do that on a very regular basis, not letting weeks go by without checking in with someone. And again, the other part of it too is, like Andre said, these people are volunteers, they're adults. They don't need to be told, okay, you have to be here for X number of minutes, hours, days, but they need to know what the expectation is. We would expect, or we would like, however you want to word it, this amount of time devoted each month, let's say, so that everybody goes into this knowing what's expected of them. The other part that I think is really important is that we give them something. In other words, just a little T-shirt with volunteer, Placerville Parks and Rec on it, or something. Trailblazers. Anything that signifies that we appreciate their time and their effort. And volunteers like to be recognized in public sometimes. Sometimes people don't. But we can make the gesture to give the Trailblazers a significant attaboy, pat on the back, whatever you want to call it, recognition at some point. That's about it for me.
Michael?
I think the 250 is a good idea. I'll leave it out to the public and what they are choosing to pay. 125. And the way I'm picturing this is that I'm going to have a group of people that are clean. So I'll be the lead. We're we're going to do this, and I have 10 people out there. I don't see, and then we go home and have a couple beers. I mean, that's the way I look at things, and cleaning it up. So I don't see it being a big deal. I just don't see it the way I pictured it in my mind. I think it's doable, but we have to get the public involved, as the LA Commission has said. As far as the gloves, Home Depot has gloves, the rubber ones, the orange ones. You can get a bunch of those. I mean, I think they're $4 for 10. It's pretty inexpensive when it comes to that. I wouldn't buy vinyl gloves. They break and you can get hurt, so I wouldn't use those at all. And then volunteer, I haven't seen a volunteer appreciation day in Placerville of all the volunteers that are out there and what we're asking them to do. So to Larissa's idea is she puts a lot of time. A lot of people come out for Rise and Shine. Yes, they get fed and stuff like that, but there's other people that are doing volunteer work that are not recognized at all. So having a volunteer day sometime, summer, fall, spring, whatever, I think it'd be a good idea. Besides that, I think it's a great idea. I think it's great. I already have 10 people that can do this program, so put me down for a 1.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? I have a question about the signage with the as it relates to $250 fee. Is it advertising signage that you're referring to, or signage trail signage?
Trail signage to indicate that their organization or their group is adopting that section of the trail.
Okay, so it's more.
There'll be a standard. We'll put their name on it, put the logo.
Okay, so not signage as in like, please don't do this to your
No, it'll be
animal.
direct signage to the program.
Okay,
So
perfect.
they'll get recognition for their hard work.
And that's hung yearly. It's up there forever, as long as they do the program.
As long as they're doing the program, yeah.
So that's in a way. So that's the $250 can be kind of looked at as an advertisement sponsorship fee as well.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
That's pretty much what it would go towards.
Right. Because I do agree. It does build civic pride
I like that.
and ownership, like you guys said. That's.
We have vests in mind, I think, to Andre's point earlier. You know, we'll probably add our logo and we'll keep them in the van. I definitely thought about they have the black and orange one, different sizes, which is different than the latex. So we'll have ones that volunteers can use if they don't, but we do highly encourage that you have your own just because it's a lot more comfortable. But that's kind of like the mindset. And again, to Ms. Larissa's point earlier, we really are kind of just grassroots right now, and so taking it back to the community, seeing what other organizations, the local businesses downtown that are adjacent to the trail, they may think this is a great idea and want to add other ideas and different thoughts, and maybe it is that their business, they don't have a lot of volunteers, but they want to sponsor it, you know, and then we'll get volunteers and say, hey, maybe there's 10 volunteers and they want to work with this sponsor, and so then the sponsor would, you know, pay the fee, but then they would have their volunteers be able to do it. I think the one component that was brought up earlier, it does take a little bit on the back end to plan multiple creek or trail cleanup events, and so that's where I'm hoping that this structure kind of puts it into place for like a year. So the onerous really is kind of on that lead, right? It's kind of on that organization to be like, hey, I'm committing to this for a year, once a month or twice a month or whatever the case is. That way it kind of releases some of the pressure from us having to market every 3 months or market every month and some other pieces. And then lastly, just kind of going through some of the feedback. I think the city council does an amazing job with a lot of the donors and the volunteers at the end of the year, especially right around the holiday season. I have thought a lot around a volunteer component to that. And so we are still working on a couple of those pieces. Maybe it's at a commission meeting, you know, and we bring donuts or coffee or something here. So there's potential and opportunity there, and all good feedback. So I appreciate that.
I just have one concern about the year. I would like to consider doing it in 6-month intervals so that there can be a time for assessment, see what's going. I think a year is way too long for a pilot program. Do for 6 months, see what works, see what is not working, and tweak it as we go along. I think it makes more sense than trying to roll it out for an entire year. Just my thought.
I think doing the public component and getting feedback would really help narrow down what is it that people are looking for. I do think there's possibilities for, do have some companies that are very big businesses in town that would probably donate a lot more than $250. So I think checking in with the community, having a meeting that is a more open forum for detailed public feedback, seeing if people are even interested in that kind of long-term commitment, or if people are more interested in specific volunteer days. Even the comment we heard earlier, I'm actually really impressed. I did not know the Friends of El Dorado did 40 miles of this trail. That's impressive. But also part of that too was, as much as they would like to help, they might not be able to commit to that 6 month or year on just this tiny little part of the 40 miles. So I think that doing the public meeting and presenting maybe this pilot program with more questions instead of this is how we're looking to do it, I think that would be an ideal way to make some progress on this concept.
I agree.
That wraps up
I
my
agree.
thoughts.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Eileen, I think Michael has some questions for you. Would you mind if, oh, Jenny, I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought,
Because Eileen's.
Jenny, okay, sorry, I got him backwards. Sorry about Jenny.
Hi, Jenny, I'm Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. Got a question. How many people actually use the trail? Have we counted that at all?
I think there was a count done a few years back. I don't really know the numbers. One day I just did sort of a count of my own. However, I was in the county section, not
Okay.
the city section. But I can just tell you that I hit a lot. I hit almost every section of the paved trail on a regular basis. And no matter what time of day I'm there, I see tons of people. So I don't know that we've done a study. It might be interesting to do a count, but we would really need to do a count at different locations on the trail, because some people exercise in the mornings and they like to start early, from one end of the trail, and then other people go in the afternoons. So
I'm just interested in Placerville.
Yeah, I'm just saying that even in Placerville, you would need to do a count, say, first thing in the morning.
Sure.
And catch the morning people, and then do a midday count to catch the lunchtime people, and an afternoon count to catch the afternoon
Gotcha.
people. Because I'm on the trail regularly at different times, I see that there's different populations of people using the trail at different times. So like the ladies, the people with babies in strollers are there at one time, whereas the runners and the bikers are there at a different time. So I think to get an accurate count, you would need to do it over a period of time and at different times of the day.
Sure. Thank you.
So that would be my recommendation.
All right, anybody else have any other comments or questions? And it looks like we're going to move forward with the town hall thing. Thank you, Jenny. Sure. I think we should just wrap this up and let's all be trailblazers. All
That was
right.
kind of a fun one. Thanks, guys. And once we announce the day and time for that, I can make it available. And if there's more of the group of the consensus of the commissioners want to go, we can always post that too, to make it a public meeting and kind of open it up as a forum. But with that said, thank you very much for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Shall we move on to 5.3, Park and Recreation Master Plan Discussion? Director.
Thank you very much, Commissioner and Commission. Tonight is a follow-up to our discussion last month in regards to revising and taking a look at the 2017 master plan. There were two thoughts around potentially kind of breaking it up and then doing public forums, and the consensus towards the end of the meeting was kind of a blend of not just allowing individual commissioners to kind of look over certain sections, but what section that they would look over to do two things. Number one, kind of present it to us as a commission so we can kind of understand those particular sections. And then secondly, also to help facilitate some of the public meetings when we open up those public forums. The third part to last month's meeting was around scheduling and when would we do some of these meetings. And from what I gathered through kind of the notes that I'd collected in some of the minutes was perhaps utilizing our existing public meetings around every month and kind of breaking it up and having an item particularly on each agenda to kind of go through that. So as you have in front of you in my staff report, you can kind of see the little bit of a timeline that I presented there from August of this year through April of next calendar year, within kind of in line with the fiscal year of kind of where we're at. The other parts to that is in four components where we would talk about specific commissioners and staff on taking particular sections. We would review those sections as part 2 to the plan. Part 3, we would open it up to facilitate a commission discussion where we would go through each section during the particular meeting. Number 4, we would facilitate a community discussion, and then number 5, we would finalize a recommendation to the city council. The caveat to section number 4, which is facilitate community discussion, we may want to schedule additional meetings depending on what kind of feedback we're getting from the community around, and I say this very candidly, if we only get a couple of people to the rec commission, we may need to adjust when we're wanting to kind of go out there, whether it's a different evening of the week or a weekend or a Saturday morning or something like that. And then I left something kind of fun that I wanted to share with you guys in regards to who would oversee which particular section, because I believe each of us had a chance to go through and look through that, because our conversation last month was kind of like, okay, well, which sections, when we went through the table of contents, who's kind of going to be doing which section? So none of this is set in stone. This is all suggestion of the directors. But I did kind of take into account some of your interests, some of your knowledge, and some of your experience, including staffs, which is including myself and Mr. Lishman to my left. So what we're trying to do tonight is seek feedback regarding the section assignments for the master plan review. The main responsibilities in our role is to kind of read and review the section that we're assigned, present those findings that we kind of go through, seek feedback from the community, recommend some options, and then, like I said earlier, is when we facilitate those two types of discussions, whether it's through the commission or the community forum, is kind of present them with guided questions, because you're kind of overseeing that little section. With that, I'll fast forward ahead to some of my recommendations. So of the agenda and each section where it starts at executive summary and introduction, the recommendation from staff is I will take those first two sections. I think that came up last month, where I'll talk through the executive summary and the introduction and kind of go through those pieces. Ms. Lynn for recreational resources, Mr. Tony for community character, Ms. Larissa for community needs and preference, planning standards, Mr. Andre. I think there's a large enough component around strategies and recommendations where we could kind of all dig into that piece, because we would all have our own kind of recommendations and potential strategies. Cost analysis, Lish, you get it? Lish, Nish. See what I did there? Thank you. And then a finance plan, Mr. Mike. Again, these are all just suggestions, and if we go through the calendar, so we would go through August all the way through April, each of us would read that section, we'd bring it back here and we dialogue, you'd walk us through guided questions, you'd help us kind of revise those things, we kind of compile it, and then once we kind of go through it and vet it all, then we go to the community and we're like, hey, look, here's the deal, this is what we're thinking, these are the standards, these are recommendations, these are our strategies. I think a lot of the strategies will also come back from the community needs preference piece. I think, Ms. Larissa, around how does the survey look, what kind of questions we want to add to the survey. But with that said, again, this is just a recommendation to boister some help. Boister? What? I don't even know if that's a word, but you know what I'm saying. Like, kind of rah-rah-ree, get everybody involved. So with that said, you have my staff report. I'm open for questions or recommendations if you have any.
Commissioners?
I don't really have any questions. I do like the timeline, how it's written out, so that way a section of the master plan is discussed on already scheduled agendas. I personally am not a fan of the individual assignments. I like the idea of keeping it on the monthly agendas with the expectation that every commissioner should become familiar with that section and be prepared to offer full detailed feedback, and also getting feedback from the public on public comment on each section. I think it'd be really ideal to see each of us have knowledge and information retained on, honestly, each topic. So my personal preference would not be to do the monthly assignments as much as it would be agendized for each month, with the expectation that each of us would be expected to go through that part of the packet and be prepared on each of those monthly topics. The only thing I would like to see added, and I know you said we could add, public forums as needed. I do think it maybe would be advantageous to look at, for the community needs and preferences, doing a public meeting, public forum, because I think there's going to be plenty members of the public that would like to come forward and vocalize their preferences, needs, hopes, and dreams for the city's Parks and Recs community. And perhaps not having that in November also, because there's the holidays, people travel. I think this is going to be something that would be of great interest to the public. And I think maybe during a holiday month, that might not be the best idea for scheduling. And that's my feedback on that, on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I completely agree with what Commissioner Lujan said about everybody needs to have read the material. My understanding was that it would just be that those individuals would lead the discussion that night. That was the intent. I would fully expect that each one of us would have read through the master plan and understand and have our questions ready. I'm comfortable with this, but I'm one vote. So if it comes down to that, I'm for what we have here. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Pitchley. Just to clarify, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was kind of the intent, in where the guided questions would be led by one individual, but we would all be well-versed in reading through the entire document. I think the reasoning behind where I had kind of put individuals is, and I'll say this very candidly, Larissa, I know you know the community, you're very passionate about it, and it was kind of like, okay, this is kind of like your thing. The other flip side to that is, because you're facilitating with the commission, it gives you the opportunity to practice leading us in those guided conversations, so that when we go into the community forum piece, that's kind of like the hope. Every individual have a section, so you're kind of practicing with us, you're kind of vetting it through with us. Everybody knows everything, but then when we do the community forum, we'll have round tables, so community will come through, and each of us will take a section and kind of facilitate it. So, sorry if I wasn't clear at the beginning around that piece. Makes sense. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. Commissioners, anyone else have a question? Nobody? And as you know, I'm absolutely dedicated and love all this. I would just like to move that maybe my responsibility is not during Q4. Please. Before we close this out
Yes,
and go to public.
Larissa made a good point about November. That's a huge, huge point for that one. And as far as all of us being well-versed on all these, I think it's a given. I like the idea of break it out in a forum. We have our own little round table. It's a good idea, because I think what I would like to see, but we have to do that, Robert's Rule of Order, is to break out with ourselves sometimes, because we don't do that at all. We might see each other on the street or something like that, but that would be fun to do. So, but what these two commissioners said, yes, I think it's a good idea.
All right, anyone, before we go to public comment, like to, all right, opening to public comment.
That'll come up, yeah.
Come on up, Jenny.
Jenny McCormick again, Friends of El Dorado Trail. I just want to say that I just finished participating in the county's version of this. The county just went through this for the recreation plan for the county. And so what they did was every meeting, they took on a different section of the plan. And then the next meeting, if there were still unresolved issues, then they would try to resolve those issues. So they would take on a section of the plan, then the next meeting would be a different section, but if there were unresolved issues, then they would come up in the next meeting, and then so on and so on. It was a very effective way of working the plan. There was public comment available at every meeting. And then they did, Dennis, you should get together with Zach Paris at the county, because they did that, and he could probably give you some pointers as to the best way to go about it. But it was very effective, and it got comment from everyone that was interested in commenting. If you want community involvement, you really need to get the word out, okay? Because you can see, like, I'm the only one here tonight, and it's really hard to get the word out. So what you're going to find is that there will be people who will come always, and everyone has their thing. I mean, mine's obviously the trail, so I'm here to always represent the trail. But you need to, if you want really good community involvement, just do your best to get the word out. And I don't know the best way to do that, truthfully. I'm certainly happy to post anything on our Facebook and Instagram pages for the trail to help get the word out. But that's just my suggestions. I've been through this process just recently, so I'm happy to work with you, Dennis, to, give you my experience. Thanks.
Jenny, I have a question. Do you guys use Nextdoor as well to get
I
volunteers?
haven't used Nextdoor at all. Honestly, I've not wanted to dip into Nextdoor. And the other thing is, because the trail is linear, I'm not sure which Nextdoor I would. I mean, I would have to cross multiple Nextdoors.
Right.
So I'm not sure that Nextdoor is maybe the best
Right.
option for a linear park.
That makes sense.
For a park, maybe Nextdoor is perfect. But for a linear park, then you're looking at, I don't know how many different
Oh, yeah.
groups of Nextdoor.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bring it back up here.
Hey, I have a question for you, Dennis. With this Recreation Parks Master Plan, are we using the 2017 to do this plan?
The existing plan that's there right now, yes. we're gonna
2017?
Off of the 2017, yes.
Okay. So we're going by this plan. We're just going to beef it up to 2026, 27?
We may have to dig a little deeper and adjust some things,
Yeah.
based on, obviously, there's not a huge influx of population, but the business market has changed.
Yep.
Interests have changed in regards to digital media, in regards to recreation, in regards to softball. There are a lot of different interests, and the demographics have changed as well. Maybe not the amount of population, definitely. I think to Jenny's point, another piece that we do want to think long-term post-April is not just being able to be present with the public while we market it and put it out there, but again, very much like what we'll do with the Adopt-A-Trail, is we may have to pivot and not just meet on Monday nights. We may have to pivot to meet on a Wednesday. We may have to pivot to meet on a Saturday. We may have to be in the park at Goldbug to host one of these forums. We may have to be at Lions Park to host a forum. So we not only need to market it, but we also want to be present where the community is. Maybe at City Park, Scout Hall. That might be a good one too, So adding additional stuff on top of this is just a framework. This is a starting point. If that makes sense.
With that said, starting at 5 o'clock when people are driving to get here at 5 o'clock, it's pretty tough. So that needs to have some flexibility, I would believe. Your thoughts on that?
Most likely based on a lot of the initiatives that we have coming up, it will probably be, well, it's 6 o'clock right now, so we'll probably post it towards the end of the agenda.
That makes sense. Anyone else?
For me, the last thing I was going to mention, I did like the recommendations from our public commenter. I like the idea of, again, having it on the agenda, perhaps recapping the previous month's topic if we need to finalize any details, and then move on to the next actual scheduled topic. My big thing with, it sounds like with the questions and leading the conversation with the forum, I don't know that it's very necessary. When we had done this before, city council members were there, and they had kind of taken on each roundtable that was in the room. There was a lot of people for a particular topic, and there was a set of questions that were kind of predetermined that they asked each table, so that way they could get a general census of the group's opinions, and then they went from table to table and shared what each group's opinion was on that specific question, and then they did it again on the next question. So I'm not really sure that it's necessary, again, having one person that leads each specific topic that night. Again, I just want to reiterate, my thought is each of us should need to be proficient in each topic, and when we do the public forum, I really like the idea of coming up with a consistent group idea and collective questions that we would consistently ask versus one person coming up at a time and leading each topic. So I get it's up to you guys on kind of what you foresee that looking like. I just don't know that that's necessary to assign to one person on each.
I like five brains versus one. I mean, we all think differently. Our perspectives are somewhat different, so that makes sense. But that round table you were talking about, Larissa, did you like that forum, though? If there was a forum?
I thought it worked really well. I think it was a very good job to get more casual, raw opinions and feedback. There's a few areas where it could have been slightly more organized, where there were some persons that had the mic and they were there was one question that they were supposed to answer, and then they kind of answered it, but they kind of went off topic into these other things. And so I think if you have one person assigned to, this was the question, these were the answers, this was the feedback, so really kind of keeping it narrowed and focused on topic. So maybe just slight adjustments, but outside of that, I thought it was very effective. And then there was one person, I can't recall who it was, but somebody there that was kind of trying to keep an eye on the time on, okay, we have this much time, we've discussed this question, let's move on to the next one. So I think they tried to keep the meeting within like a 2-hour time frame. So I think having a little bit more organized structure collectively, instead of just one person kind of being in charge of a topic maybe on that day. Again, that's not my vote for that, so.
Okay, so I'm trying to process what you're saying. So maybe, are you hoping that there's more of a like a template or a format that we each follow? Would that be more helpful so that, in other words, instead of me coming up with 15 things I want to address, and then somebody else coming up with 5, and somebody
Yes.
else, you're trying to avoid that? You would just like to see it consistent. I understand, because I would want us to appear like we got our act together.
Yeah, that's
you know?
exactly, yes.
And so maybe that I agree with.
Yeah.
I think we could do that if and perhaps, at a future meeting, or maybe some one-on-ones at some point, we could all talk about that, so that maybe you're able to come up with something that, hey, commissioners, I want each of you to follow this when you're presenting, so that we're not, the last thing I want to do is have a meeting that ends up at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if we can kind of make it more concise, that there's some consistency, maybe between finance and between community, whatever the one was, the community one, that there might be some differences that have to be there, at least there would be some consistency in the number of questions, and, yeah, I like that, yeah.
Well, and especially, yeah, so I agree, yes. I think the other issue you'd run into, for example, like I think the community needs and preferences could easily be a meeting by itself, and it's like, do we really want Larissa to run a 2-hour meeting? I can if you want me to, but I think, as he mentioned, is having a collective, effort, having us decide what kind of questions we want to ask, and maybe having us assigned to each table to get, okay, I'm going to talk to these 10 people, he's going to talk to these 10 people. Each person can kind of really hone in on those individual opinions and then present, this is what my table said on this topic. I think that would be a little more effective versus just that one meeting, too many questions, et cetera.
Can I jump in once again? And this reminds me of something that was told to me by a gentleman by the name of Jug Kovich when I worked for the Auburn Recreation District, and that was that, and he was a board member, he was the chair of the board. He said, the director tells us what we're to be working on, what we're to be doing. And so I think it would really be helpful if, Dennis, if you were telling us, this is what I want you to do. Yeah, we're giving you feedback right now, but ultimately I would think that we would then be doing what it is that, as the director of the department, the person who's closest to the stuff, you're saying, okay, but here's what I need you to do. And I don't want, my opinion, my feeling is, I don't want the tail wagging the dog on this, in that regard. I think that it still should be the director's authority. We're here to advise, not to direct. So that's my thoughts on that.
Clarification, and for the record, the meeting you were referring to was for events, right? Yes, it was. Okay. And then for clarity, that we're not talking about having 5 public meetings with each commissioner. We would take on our roles, and then we would have a town hall meeting, which all 5 of us would get up and say, I'm going to tell you this in 20 minutes. This is what's going on. Let's all get together, talk amongst ourselves, give feedback, and then move on, right? Just like how the entertainment or the event meeting kind of went, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very, very simple.
Very easy.
Yeah, and I think with the first one coming up in August, I think to Andre and Larissa's point, I'll model it, I'll walk us through it, I'll have a template, I'll give us a format, and we can tweak that format as your willingness and understanding kind of goes through there, right? So during the introduction, or basically the executive summary and the introduction, I'll kind of pilot it, I'll put together a template, I'll model it, and we can kind of go from there.
Sounds good. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, we're bringing this in for a landing. 5.4, Recreation Program Update, Lish.
Good evening. Thank you. Just a couple updates I wanted to let everybody know. I don't know where the camera is, but I'll show you the back of the activity guide, back of this activity guide. Trying to look over there on the TV. This Saturday, July 26th, we're showing Moana 2 in the park. From 6 to 8 p.m., we will have free family swim at the pool. And then from 8:30 to 10:30 p.m., we will be showing Moana 2 in the park. So we ask everybody to bring blankets to sit on the grass, short lawn chairs. And this is all in thanks to the Placerville Police Officer Association and the Placerville Lions Club for donating the funding to cover the cost for that night, as well as Vantage Point Church will be there to hand out free popcorn to those that are interested. So looking forward to it. If you're available that night and you have little ones, you have grandkids, friends, whatever, let them know, bring them out. Should be a fun night. Last Thursday was the deadline for our fall softball registration, so we're gearing up for the next league. We're getting ready to wrap up the current league that we're in. We got playoffs coming up, and we'll be starting the new season. Our basketball and volleyball camps were a big success this year with, thanks to our coaches from the El Dorado High School. Goldbug is going good. I know we had a really good weekend this weekend, especially with the blacksmith shop donations. I heard the blacksmith shop was very busy this weekend. And we also had, today we had we had a very successful art class today. I think we had 9 kids signed up in it, so that was great for us. So kudos to our teacher for coming all the way from Brentwood, California to teach that class. So it was a great class. And the Lego camp last week was a huge success. We had quite a few kids in here building Legos to the ceiling, so that's always a fun class to check out. And then lastly, with everybody going back to school, the pool, everything went great at the pool this summer. Fortunately, we were able to keep it open every day throughout the month of July, and we will be closing the pool on August 3rd. It's hard to believe that kids are going back to school in like 2 weeks. So summer flies, time flies. So, anyways, that's my report. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to
Thank you.
answer them.
Commissioners, any questions? Comments? The movie night's getting a lot of feedback. We shared that on our page as well, and people are really responding to it, so it's really nice. Thank you very much for that. All right, should we close that one out? Oh, public comment on 5.4. All right. Moving on to 5.5. Nish.
Thank you, Mr. Lishman, for your recreation update. Really quick, as of August 1st, we will have 2 new titles in our administrative office. We've recently, based on City Council's approval, adopted an assistant director of community services and a community service manager. Funding-wise, we're going to stay the same. There's no change in regards to salaries and scope. We are adding an additional parks maintenance worker, and we're also adding an additional recreation coordinator. Currently, we're hiring for a temporary office assistant based on some of our restructuring and one individual that's still on leave, so approved leave. And we're trying to figure out right now on the best course of action to be able to take to cover our front office. As you know, we are closed for lunch and available for appointments only on Fridays. 3 big projects kind of on the cusp right now, based on City Council's approval. We'll be renovating and fixing the City Park slides, or affectionately called Benham Park or Downtown Park near City Pool. Two of those projects will hopefully begin within the next 30 days, including the repair to Lions Park, because there's a slide in a section there that needs to be fixed as well. A couple of other projects that we're kind of pushing forward is the RFP and agreement with El Dorado Transit and the renovation of the Mosquito Park and Ride train depot. Those are a couple of those other ones that we're kind of working on right now, as well as Adopt a Trail and some of our park maintenance standards. So 2 things that we'll probably be focusing on that's transitioning over during the month of August is kind of trying to identify roles and responsibilities and the primary targets of what the standard is for our facility maintenance, what the standard is for our park maintenance, how often we're mowing, how often we're cleaning the trail, and where we are with certain things. And so some of those big changes are going to hopefully be coming up here in August. I'm available for questions, and I'm sure you have them. Now will probably be the best time.
So do I understand correctly that the department is responsible for the maintenance of the Mosquito Park and Ride?
That is
what I
correct.
just heard? I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So community services, I thought the Arts and Wine show was fabulous this past weekend. I like the organization. The only change I would make on it is when they had that list of where to go, they would have an address to it, next to it. Besides that, it turned out fabulous. It was really, I liked it. So did my
Talking
wife.
about the merchants on Main?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Art and Wine show that they have on the 3rd Saturday of the month, I think it's where it is. Turned out fabulous. Besides that.
Yep. To your point, Mr. Pitchley, 48 total areas, including parking lots, city garage, city hall, police department, wharf, town hall, significant amount, including the mosquito parking ride.
311, has anybody used that 311? Yes. I think it's fabulous.
It is amazing.
It's a fabulous program. Yes, it is. So thank you for that.
And that Art and Wayne program is going to happen every month, pretty much, yeah. So, all right,
Oh, it is?
That's pretty much it, unless you guys got any more questions.
thank you. Yeah,
Sorry, just
go ahead.
real quick. So this one, I don't know if it's really a question as much as, there was a member of the public who reached out to me and has been talking to the maintenance worker at Goldbug, Mr. Lane, and she had asked him if he could get some help with one project that she could help with this summer, what would it be? And he said he would really like to have the map for Goldbug and the trails. I think she had even sent me, I'll have to look. I think I might have accidentally deleted it. But it kind of looked like a hand-drawn map of the area. And she wanted to volunteer to update that with more detail and add some of her artwork to that. So I told her I would mention it to you guys. So I don't know if that's something that would need to be agendized. I don't know if it's something that she would just need to work with you directly to get that structured, maybe release her artwork, whatever, I'm not sure. Is that something that you would recommend, just to reach to you directly for
Yeah,
that?
100%. I'll give you my card, and then you can just hand it
I
to her,
can
and
just
then
give
she
it
can call me.
Okay. Otherwise, that's it. Thank you.
All right. If there aren't any more commissioner updates or questions? No? Shall we, public comment on 5.5? No, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
A second? Everybody in favor of adjourning this? All right. That was fun. Good night, everybody.
Leader. I don't, leader.
That's right.